Nation after nation are finding themselves close to bankruptcy, and right now we have countries defaulting on their debt. Now this has gone on all throughout history. However, right now, with a system that is run completely off of debt, we are going to see the dominoes falling because this cannot be sustained. Bonus points to whoever can figure out what that image on the right is. Not just Argentina, 11 countries near bankruptcy. I'll go in and list a few of those countries for you right now, and they're saying here, Greece and Ukraine to Pakistan to Ecuador, Venezuela, and Belize, Egypt, and many others. So they say there is no geographical limitation on exactly who can have this issue right now with bankruptcy, and it's not just countries with very high debt to GDP ratios either. So there are many factors. What I believe, and what many do believe as well, is that the vultures are responsible. And that is, you have these hedge funds, these institutions, which basically can manipulate any individual country. It's like a currency war. That's what happens. You can manipulate them from the outside and you can attack them. And that is exactly what the IMF tries to do when they go in to save a country. They go in and they will be responsible for all the damage that has been done. Look at Greece having to sell off major assets. This is very, very bad for that country, I assure you. And this wouldn't be such a problem. However, if you look at it right now, July 2014, there are 92 million Americans 16 and over who are classified as not in the labor force. This is why you have such a big problem, is when a high percentage of the people are not able to work, they're not going to be able to afford anything, and surely you're going to run into problems, because without that middle class there, without the people working and spending, you're simply not going to have a proper country. It cannot all be sustained by government debt. It just can't do that. It doesn't work like that. So they're trying to do so. However, it is obviously a big failure. I'll go on quickly. Reminds me of what happened. This is the debt crisis of 1982 in Mexico. I'll just go over the three basic points. What they said was, first, this is in February, they devalued the peso. So they wanted to make it cheaper, which did work to allow the exports to be cheaper. That's for sure. It definitely worked for that. However, what happened was eventually they couldn't pay off their external debt. Their foreign debt was unable to be paid because they're paying back in confetti, and the countries simply don't want it, essentially, and eventually they had to come out to the US government, the IMF, and basically say that, look, we can't pay up anymore. Well, of course, they have restructuring to do at that point. I'll get into that in a moment. Not too long after, they had to nationalize the banking system, of course, to prevent the bankruptcy, because the central bank would always be lender of last resort. And then they impose these comprehensive exchange controls. And then they go into other things as well. You can read that for yourself. But essentially, what they do is they screw over all of those who are invested there. And that is a big problem, because if you're investing in government bonds, for example, you never really know if your money is coming back to you. People feel that it is a very safe investment, but you truly never know. That's why the paper monetary system is extremely fragile. It is extremely risky, and you should invest at your own risk. This is exactly what happened in Mexico, and this could very well happen in the US. And this is what we have to worry about. This is the IMF's diagram here from my book, and basically what I'm just showing you, depicting that a portion of your paycheck goes to your taxes, a portion of those taxes ends up going to the IMF, and the IMF is basically paying off these banks. They are one big bank in their own way, and they are working together in concert with these big banks to essentially push other countries into bankruptcy. And they do so by acting like vultures. That's the way this works. They put a country onto an interest rate they simply cannot pay back. That's just the way it is. But they force feed it down their throat, and the country, it has to take it. And they do so, and they're unable to pay back. Eventually they have to go in this cycle, this constant cycle where they devalue their currency, they're unable to pay their foreign debt, and again they have to restructure. And who is losing in the situation? It's the individual citizens. That's how this works, because the individual, all they want is to be able to do their daily thing, but they can't because their paper dollars are worth less and less every day. You have hyperinflation in many of these countries, and it is obviously destructive to so many of them, Venezuela being one of them. So anyway, I'm going to go on and finish up the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and tell you that if you're not an insider already, this is the best place to get the information because it's totally free. It's information that I talk about here, I talked about in my book, and you can get it through your email, and I hope that you will enjoy it. And it's free. It's at themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom, you fill in your email address, and you get those occasional emails from me.